Do you want me to do the intro?
Yeah.
All right.
You do the intro.
We're going to do the intro. Richard, do you want to do the intro?
No.
Rishi, you did the intro.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of WATTPOD, What a Time to Podcast. We're back here again, and something which is quite dear to me actually, because I brought my lovely colleagues from the company that I worked on previously. And the reason why I brought them on is because these people are not just, they're not just people who are dear to me, but they're actually people that I've learned from. And just as we've promised to all the viewers, we want to bring on people that you can learn from and actually get some sort of guidance from in the way they live their lifestyle and the way they bring into their work life. So that's why we have over here on the right, Rachel. Rachel is a product manager, and she has worked on various projects which are very, very exciting, which we'll definitely talk about. We have Chloe over here. I call her the GOAT, because she is the GOAT, and you'll realize on this episode why that is. And we've got Rishi right here, my man Rishi, who has shaven for some reason and is putting me off every single time. But however, this guy's a brother to me, and I've learned so many things from him. I have so many one-to-ones with this guy. So without further ado, let's go right into the episode. Fike, what is it that we are talking about today?
I'm very glad you asked. And I'm very glad for the first time ever, we're doing proper structure to the episode. Yeah, it's very exciting to have you guys. Obviously, the first time I'm meeting you guys. Obviously spoke to AK a little bit more. The main reason why we're doing this episode as well, just to mention, is to speak about some professional experiences and some advice for people as well. So we may as well get in the first topic, which is actually physical exercise, I like to call it. So I've heard a lot about you guys, no pressure. I know, guys and girls, sorry.
It's a habit of yours, isn't
it? It is a habit. I say guys a lot.
Is it?
I think it's acceptable.
I think of guys of every, general, yeah.
Right, let's do it.
I think
Let's do
that's
that way.
more.
It's a very big YouTube term as well, to be fair. People tend to use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard a lot. So I've heard that, apologies, I might get the names mixed up, but I think one of you two did the marathon, is that right?
Yes, that was
As yourself?
me. Yeah.
Okay. So Chloe, tell us a bit more about your marathon training. I'm really curious, actually, to learn about your experience, like your first experience mainly, and how you built up to be a marathon runner.
Oh. It makes me sound a lot more elite when you say it like that.
I know.
It's because you are.
You're the goat, yeah. So I have to be respectful.
Well, I mean, I definitely haven't trained properly as I should have for this one. So I ran my first one probably in 2017, and that one I trained a lot more for.
Wow.
Yeah, that was just fresh out of uni, so I was a lot fitter back then. This one that I did now, must have been about 3 weeks ago, but we were actually in Lisbon last year with my family, and we liked it so much that we said, let's come back here, but it has to be for a run. So we decided, let's do the Lisbon Marathon. I probably should have trained a lot more, but I think I knew that regardless of how I trained, as long as I ran it and took it easy, I'd be able to finish it. So I was only training probably about once to twice a week. I probably should have been training so much more.
That's quite impressive that you trained once or twice a week
Yeah.
and you were able to run a marathon. I'm assuming that's just accumulative experiences, right?
I
Your
think
body
it is
kind
that,
of gets
because
used to
I
it.
have been running for a long time, probably
Yeah.
since I was about 19, and I'm 28 now, so
Oh wow.
it gives me a good,
9 years of running.
yeah.
Wow. You're not running away from anything, are you?
No,
Psychological,
no, maybe I am, and I don't know it, but
Could be, yeah. How's that translated into your life then, your professional experience? Because obviously from uni you were running, and then you decided to pursue your career.
yeah.
So I'm quite curious to learn how that
So
translated.
I don't know if I can actually, I can probably think of something to make it sound a lot more meaningful than it is, but
Please do, it's good for the podcast.
Just make it sound amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is also something for me, so it's something that I'm completely in control of for myself. So regardless of everything else that's going on, it all comes down to me. So it's not like in our team where we could be dependent on other people. This all comes down to us. All comes down to me, and how whatever I put in, that's what I get out.
That's a good way of seeing it. Whatever
That's
you
pretty good,
put in, that's what you get out.
Yeah.
That's a
I mean,
really
'cause
interesting way to see
I got the time that I deserved.
it. Right.
It
Yeah.
wasn't a good run, it wasn't a bad run. I enjoyed it, but I know I got what I deserved for that
Yeah,
run.
yeah,
But actually, no, I really enjoyed it. It was good. We ran along the coast of Portugal on the Lisbon side, so it was really nice.
I think that's an interesting part of something like a marathon, because like you mentioned, it's the work that you put in. Like
Yeah.
yes, you're working in a team, your professional experience, but in a team you have to put in your shift, right?
Yeah.
For a marathon, there's no way you can hide. You can't fake going faster. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Or fake your time. So that's quite interesting.
I guess if there's something else that you want to pull out of there for professional, it's probably that like you definitely cannot gas out at the beginning. And
Wow.
here comes that great metaphor that, or is it a metaphor or analogy? It's not a marathon, it's a sprint. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
It's a marathon,
Yeah.
So you definitely can't gas out straight away. So I know I needed to slow myself down a lot in the first 20 Ks.
Yeah. I think especially for entrepreneurship, I mean, you said, I don't know how to put it down, but I think you just put it down perfectly in terms of how to translate to business life, because especially for entrepreneurs, there's so many times you've read that sentence, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, because you gotta keep on grafting for it, you gotta keep on working for it. And we were talking about teams earlier. Rishi, you have done something very interesting, which is called man versus fat, is it?
Yeah, so it's called Man versus Fat. So it's just getting fit using football. So once a week, we get together and we played like a half an hour game. But it's not just that. But the way that it's structured is you've got 4 different teams, so you play each other every other week.
Yeah, like
so you just rotate around. But it's a team event, so you don't just win just on the pitch. It's off the pitch as well. So you've got your game and then you've got your goals, but you also get goals for stuff that you do outside. So the way that it's structured is if you lose weight every week, you get an additional point. If you hit like a certain loss percentage, like 5% of your original weight, 10%, you get additional points. So it's more team orientated. So you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for like your team.
Just touching on that as well, when you mentioned you're doing it with your team, right? You're accumulating points for your team. Did you find that in your team, like you guys are encouraging each other as well to go a bit further? Yeah.
So we were always like encouraged to say like even if one person doesn't make it that week, there's others enough to kind of like to get the point. So because everyone's competitive in there.
Yeah.
I mean, you are there just to lose weight, but they are also very competitive. So it creates that kind of environment where you're there for fun as well, but you're also competitive. So that actually gives you a bit more of a motivation to actually, have I eaten too much this week? Do I need to cut? What do I need to cut down? And it's just.
And having that advisory group around you, I think that's like, especially for the mental aspect, as we often talk about, like having people to support you. I think it's probably one of the biggest factors why it's successful.
I mean, it was a good environment because everyone was there for the same purpose, right? To lose weight. So you'd have one WhatsApp group for everybody, then you'd have one for your team. Everyone will be sharing like this is what I've done, or like here's a recipe that's kind of like low carbs. High protein, but it also kind of like looks nice and easy to do.
I'm assuming the competitive aspect as well. You touched on it briefly, but you guys were also competitive within your teams as well, a little bit. Like, okay, I'm doing this, so.
I wouldn't say we were too competitive within the teams. It was outside. There was, you wanted to win. Yeah. Right. There's a trophy involved, so you want to win. Yeah. So and it's a league, so you get points for a win, for a loss. So I think and again it depends on like the type of people you're with as well. The guys that was in my group were quite competitive, which means that there's a lot of encouragement and everyone was quite focused on we need to try and win. So again, adds a bit more of a focus on trying to also lose weight at the same time.
Yeah. No, definitely like that competitive aspect against other teams, right? Makes you go a bit further, I suppose, right?
Yeah. But if I would join, I would probably lose something, right? Because I really need to. I really, really need to.
I mean, it's really good. Like for me, I lost a lot of weight at the start of the year. So, but it was also just playing football.
We've been witness to that, isn't it? That we've actually seen the big change. You lost a lot of weight in around this area as well.
That was only 2 weeks
Just
ago.
a beard. Just beard is gone. 10 kg off. Pow.
For those of you guys who don't know, Rishi has shaved his beard. Of course, I have no idea because it's the first time seeing you. So as soon as you walked in, everyone was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" But yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, but it sounds. I mean, that sort of sport. I suppose the main thing is being competitive with yourself, and then you actually have the competitiveness with your team, right?
Yeah.
And I suppose that translates into real life as well, in your professional life, and that gives you sort of that confidence to drive forward. I suppose, right? Is that what you mainly took away from it for both of you guys as well? That sort of competitive and that confidence in working in a team.
It gives you confidence, but also in terms of like you feel good about yourself. So then then you get more and more confident, because you're achieving targets that you set yourself. Especially like when you're in an environment where you start your target and then you go down to like losing 5% of your body weight, 10% of your body weight.
Yeah.
There are guys in there who's been there for maybe like 2-3 years who've lost like 20% in body weight, which is a lot.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, it's for those who struggle to lose weight. It's a good way of doing it, and it was fun.
Shout out Man versus Fat. Wow. But that was free advertising for them.
But that was it. It was fun. So you don't actually, you don't associate it to kind of weight loss. You associate it to actually doing something interesting.
I suppose you're right, yeah, because you're playing football, which is fun, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it kind of makes you going.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't know how you find marathons fun. I hate jogging, so I suppose you find that fun as well, don't you?
I really don't know what it is, but I think the last bit is always the worst bit. But you also know that you're so close. So at least the first 3 quarters are fine.
So it kind of drives you to that push forward.
And I think you work it in chunks as well. Like when I started, I wasn't just thinking, okay, I've got 42 Ks left to run. I was working, we'll do the first 10.
Yeah.
We'll do the next 10. And everything was in 10K chunks.
Okay, yeah. So I suppose that's also kind of, you set your small goals and you keep on building, and then towards the end you're like, okay, I'm almost there. So you kind of forget that you're tired, I suppose, don't you?
Yeah, it's a bit traumatizing. You have to think of it as the whole thing.
I
So you
suppose.
definitely need to break it down. Like our features.
Wait,
Yeah.
This is a great segue. Speaking of something traumatizing, so Rachel, you've done something that I have huge respect for, actually, and I think it's a skill that a lot of people look to develop, which is public speaking. I know we mentioned physical exercise, right? And that's more to do with fun, because you kind of get prepared for physical exercise, right? You can be like, all right, I'm going to do this. But how do you prepare from being in a panel and public speaking? I mean, what's that experience like for you? Because I'm really, really curious to understand what was going on inside here for you to actually do that.
Yeah, so I didn't love it. I don't think everyone loves public speaking. But I didn't want to do it, which is the reason why I did it, because I knew that I didn't want to. So they shared all the questions beforehand, so I knew what they were going to ask, so it wasn't just a point at you and answer a question, which was good. So I wrote them out, I wrote notes of what I thought I wanted to say for each of them. I didn't practice too much because I think that puts me off. I sound too rehearsed, so I just kind of knew what I wanted to ask for each. And I actually took my notebook up with me and had it on my lap. I think for the first one, that was the first one I did, I felt a bit more comfortable knowing it was there if I needed to look at it.
I find that really interesting though, that you said you didn't want to do it and that's why you did it.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
That's the only reason I
Did they ask you questions that although like you said, you already knew the questions, but were there any questions that you didn't want to be asked for?
I don't think so. I think they knew. I'd spoken to them beforehand, so I had a couple of meetings, and they wanted to talk more about one topic that wasn't really covered by us. So I basically said, I can't really talk about that because I've got nothing to say.
Right.
Completely different. Like pushing their agenda, but not what we actually did. So I was like, I'm not going to say we do this when we don't.
Right. But it's the aspect of like Rishi mentioned as well and Chloe mentioned, that confidence aspect that you actually require to be able to speak, and because it's a lot of people there, right? I mean, right now it's probably easier because there's no one in front of us. There's just a bit of tech that doesn't speak back to us. But if there's a lot of people there, you can sometimes see judgment faces, or someone just be like, okay, or just yawning, let's just say, for example.
But did you notice that though? Because you're 100% right. Do you even notice people, or are you just like in your flow and you just kind of?
I tried to look at the panelist.
Okay.
I'd look out a bit to talk to them, but I didn't really focus on anyone's face.
Okay, yeah, no, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I didn't see any. Luckily, I didn't see anyone. I think that would have put me off a bit.
But I suppose when you're in that state, because you mentioned something interesting as well, which is that you didn't rehearse too much, right? Because you wanted to. Do you reckon that helped you, like when you were speaking as well? Because you're kind of just flowing off rather than trying to memorize something while you're speaking.
Yeah, I think I do the same for interviews. I need to know all my stuff, but I can't memorize it, or I'll go blank almost if I memorize too much. If I miss like one thing, then I would forget everything else. So I try and make it a bit more natural, so it doesn't just sound like a robot.
Okay, so one key aspect as well, and one of the main reasons we got all you guys on here is for your various projects that you've done. Actually, you're included in this as well, you know.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. Obviously, myself, I can't speak too much about it because I've done the same role essentially for the last 3 years. But you guys have done either different projects or you guys have worked in the same company doing various different projects as well. So, with your experiences, for example, your experience in public speaking, your physical exercise part. I'm asking a very tough question, but how would you say any tips that you guys have or anything that stands out when it comes to adapting? Like, what would you guys say is really important when it comes to adapting different projects that people don't really think about, or something that surprised you where you thought, okay, that's something new?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first, but to be honest, I think it's just about giving it time.
Okay.
Like when I first joined, I only joined the bank about, was it 5 months ago?
Oh wow.
And I think when you're exposed to change, there's so much, like you're so overwhelmed that I think you want to take on everything at once, but I think sometimes you just need to slow down and give it time. And I think that applies to anything. Yes, you also need to jump in and get into it, but I think at the same time you need to slow down and just
That's
let it happen.
interesting, because that correlates to your marathon as well, sort of setting the small
yes.
goals. Yeah. You're a natural at this, yeah. Brilliant.
I planned that.
Yeah, we did not plan that. Just let you guys know.
Rachel, what about you? Because we know, but the public doesn't know. You actually had a big change in terms of what the one main major project that you had was with the Hermes that you had, and then now you're more on a customer facing. Well, I mean, both are really customer facing, but however, one is very, very particular faced on the security aspect of payments. That change, because Hermes, me not knowing too much about Hermes, but I know it's all about messaging and notifications, etc.
Yeah.
That big change, where sometimes you could essentially say it's quite daunting to kind of hear like, okay, I'm in an authorization sort of aspect now. There's a big security aspect that needs to be followed now. How did you adapt to that sort of change?
Yeah, I guess the difference was that I chose the change. I looked for another job internally and found it. So I think that was one thing. I was obviously ready for change and to learn something new. And then, because it was an internal move, I knew some people already, which definitely helped as well.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing for me in any new position is to find out who all the people are, the key people that I need to do stuff and be friends with, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that definitely helps. Once you understand what everyone does, what their roles are, what you're expected to do, I think it makes it a bit easier to then...
having the network around you, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is something that actually often comes up every time we have some sort of guests around us. Even I think our last guest, this exact same sort of aspect came around. You got to know the right people.
Yeah.
That comes up a lot of times. We have one person here who probably knows. I mean, every time I go into the bank, I say, first of all, he is the Prime Minister of our country.
Oh, that's very important. Congratulations, by the way.
Congratulations.
And extremely wealthy.
Yeah. Extremely.
Treating us later on tonight.
I'm his double act.
His stunt double.
Yeah. Just in case someone wants to shoot him.
Yeah. Just wow. Damn. There was an aspect that I kind of wanted to for you to kind of touch base on, because you have worked on not just all sort of different features, but you've had various different roles in a short amount of time at your workplace. Isn't that correct?
Well, 7 years. So it's a long time.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, but I have had various roles within, 2 roles, but across multiple teams.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So how did you adapt in changing teams constantly? Well, how was that for you?
So it was easier than kind of like, what people might think, because I already know like the teams I was moving into. I had good relationships with the guys. So it wasn't really too much of a transition because, again, you are still mobile. Well, for us, it's mobile, so you're still within the team. So even though they're kind of like segmented, it's still one team. So you still, for me, I used to talk to everybody, so I knew faces and how people worked, and so it wasn't too bad.
I don't think you're giving enough yourself. I can't speak. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit though, because I think one thing you mentioned, which is quite key, is you mentioned it's different people but still one team, i.e. the people in the company and the similar field are all similar. Like, do you see it as one big project?
It's right. It's always one big project. Like,
that's a good point,
for us, it's just there are different layers and people working in different aspects, but at the end of the day, it's one big team.
Is that what was in your head as well when you were like?
That's always been in my head, to be honest. Yeah. Like, wherever I work, it's like at the end of the day, you've got similar objectives. Well, you may not have similar objectives, but your overall objective is always the same. Like, you may have individual objectives, but as an organization, it's one.
You know that question, like his thinking is so different to the way I was thinking, and I've only just realized that as he was saying it. Like, you're seeing as a whole, one whole kind of team, one whole big kind of project, etc. However, when I was working there, I was just seeing it as, look, this is, we have a test team, a QA team essentially, and I'm part of the Android team essentially. Then later on we have the Guardian, etc. But I wouldn't necessarily see it of course, like, I see it all as one team. We all need to work together, of course, but at the same time I wouldn't necessarily see it in the same way as you did, where I was kind of seeing it as one whole big thing. I would just kind of focus on the one platform.
You know what, I've just realized, I think the reason for that, because you said something very similar as well, Chloe, and then you said something similar, and both of you guys have been working shorter than you have. You worked for 7 years, right? So you have a different aspect. Yours is a long term, okay, we need to achieve this, we're all going to work in different layers to achieve the same goal, whereas you guys had to start with let's start from here and let's build up, right? So I suppose there's different perspectives as well, which is quite interesting as well, because people who work within companies, they're in different phases of their career. Some people are just starting and some people have been there for a while, and it's quite interesting to see how different people adapt to change, I suppose, right?
Yeah, it is interesting.
I used to be a Scrum Master as well.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's still my title on my
Really?
Skype. Yeah.
Wait,
Okay.
on your actual...
On Skype, it still says Android Scrum Master.
wow.
So
On
when
Skype.
was the change
Okay,
from Scrum
big
Master
throwback.
to PO, and was that at NatWest?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started off as Android Scrum Master at NatWest, and then it's a bit weird about progression, right? It's to go to the next level, you have to apply for a role. It's not like, you don't, it's not like your manager says you're ready for a promotion. So you have to apply. And when a more senior role became available, it was on the iOS side, so I applied. Then I moved into iOS. Then a more senior role appeared on the server side, so I applied and then moved over to server. So I kind of like went across all three platforms that was there.
Internal moves, basically, right? Yeah.
Within the same team.
Yeah.
Within mobile team as such. And then decided to take a different career direction and moved in as a product owner.
It comes across that actually with all you guys as well. I think with you it's slightly different because you strike me across as someone, okay, I want a little bit of a challenge, let me go for it. But also there's an element of not afraid of change. You guys welcome it seems like, right?
I mean, change is natural. So
That's true,
you have to be a bit adaptable. So for us, especially in an environment where we're always fast paced, we've got to be kind of like, quite quick to react, and we have to accept change. That's the nature of the industry we work in. Is you've got like fintechs coming in, into a space, and they're changing the dynamics. So for us, as an organization, we have to change, and as people inside the organization, we have to change as well to kind of meet that, the current market situation.
I suppose when you have that in your mind, that you have to adapt, you have to change, it makes it easier to work on different projects as well, right? That's a general question for all you guys, by the way.
The thing is, it's easy for them, but when you take someone new as an aspect, I was literally just because it was my last day today at the bank, but because of that, I was engaging a lot of conversation with a lot of new starters as well. They were just like saying all the best in the future, thank you, this and that kind of stuff, and at the same time, I felt like there was some individuals where I thought, what, you're a person who understands certain things, go try for it. Don't be afraid of it. For them, although it was still within the same team, although it was still within the same sort of project, but just because it was small change, it was certain feature, they were afraid. Now for you wouldn't be afraid of this. Rachel, you wouldn't be afraid of it. Chloe, you're the GOAT anyway. So, but for people who are not used to this aspect in adapting, in tackling change, and taking a risk, those sort of people, like we need, like essentially, what would you kind of advise to them? I'll point out to you, Rachel, because I feel like you haven't realized it, but you are sometimes taking a risk and going into a different sort of change. What would your advice be to someone? You should give this a go.
Yeah, I guess they're not doing it because they're afraid to fail, which is why a lot of people don't do stuff. So it's okay to fail. You won't know. If you don't try, then you'll never know. So you try it, get feedback, if it doesn't work, and then try again. So I think, just go for it. You've got nothing to lose, really. Yeah. That's what I would think.
Have you ever felt that you've lost?
Like failed?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For any job interview you don't get, or any time you make a small mistake at work, then you've kind of failed. But as long as you go about it the right way, work out what's gone wrong and work through it,
and you grow from it.
It's just learning rather than a failure. Yeah.
It's amazing. That's lovely.
I think that's important to remember as well. It's like linking everything together is don't be afraid of change, right? Welcome it, because you have to. Like you mentioned as well, I know it's in the nature of your guys' business and your field. I think in general with the world as well, in most people jobs, they're always changing. Especially now with technology, you guys work in the sort of tech space, but there's different sorts of technologies coming out as well, and it's just gonna make it have more change, right? Like this is going a bit grandpa mode, but the internet wasn't really a thing like 40 years ago or something, right? But that made a massive change to everyone's way of working. So I suppose that's really the key message: is welcome that change, right?
Welcome it. I think from today's episode, I've learned a couple of things. Like a lot of times, like we mentioned, challenging yourselves in running marathons. Something I completely lack. However, the mindset of you just got to keep going, and like you mentioned, it's the last bit where it's so dreadful. You probably hate it the most, but the mindset says you got to keep on going through it.
Also, the way to start as well. Start small. Like as to set small goals and work your way up towards it. Don't just go for the whole thing at once. Even with your stuff, like Man vs. Fat, I'm sure you guys had goals, but you guys set it up of, okay, lose this much, and then lose this much for this game, right?
Not like, I mean, your target is like 5%, 10%, 15%. That's what your ultimate goal is. But so you always had a target. You get to the first 5%, then you build up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously, you just have to keep going more and more and more. So it just encourages you to kind of keep going.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
I think we are ready for the outro, mate.
Ready for the outro. That's all, guys.
What is the outro? What is?
It's the outroduction.
Yeah. So I learned something today. I didn't know. So we're all learning. We're all adapting to the changes, I suppose. No. First of all, it's been great having you guys. The outroduction. Yeah. It's been great having you guys. First time meeting you guys as well. So it's been great meeting you guys. Rishy's gonna treat us as well as a new PM. Celebratory dinner
with his infinite of wealth.
Let's go to number 11.
Straight to number 11. But it's been great having you guys. I'm pretty sure the guys have also learned. And by the guys, I mean the WATTPOD audience. We have an audience as well. They've learned a lot. I was going to say talk about your business, but you guys are workers, so I'm not sure if you guys want to plug yourself, but if there's anything you guys want to plug at all, now's your time to shine.
You can plug your Instagrams.
You can plug your Instagrams if you want to.
Mine's on private, so...
Okay, so don't follow.
Follow my private Instagram.
I am very strict around 2 ways.
That's good.
No, it's all good. I think that pretty much covers it. It was a great podcast. We kind of went round as well, which is nice. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and keep up. we've got new guests coming up as well. We don't know who's going to come up next because we're just
Well,
recording at the same
we
time.
know, but we don't know when.
Okay, yeah. We know, but we don't know when. But
Yeah,
by the time this
there's two
goes out,
different
it
ones,
will
yeah.
be out.
Yeah. I mean, all I say is, for the technology heads, there's someone coming who has been in the tech game since the very beginning of, some might say Cisco.
Okay. Well, very exciting episode coming out. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Peace out.
Whopper for life.
Whopper for life. What a time to be alive.